Hey, you beautiful everyone's. Welcome back to another BDSM series video. I'm already blushing, can't you tell? Today I want to talk about BDSM and abandonment. And if you are a twin flame or a light worker as well, I'm going to tie it all in. Okay, so that's the topic for this video, is BDSM and abandonment. But before we begin, I would really like to invite you to say hello to Cassandra, one of my newest gang members. And Cassandra is so special, and she also has a dog called Bone, Cassandra and Bone. And she is still in her box. That's how special she is. But she has got air holes in her box. So let me just introduce you to her. She's known as Breathe With Me Barbie. And you can see that she's like a meditation guru. And there's her dog Bone. Okay, can you see? And see the breathing holes there? We kind of get the Silence of the Lambs type of feel going on here. Remember that movie? Hello, Clarice. It's a bit spooky, but I just thought I'd introduce you to Cassandra today because she's all chill. And in Australia today, it just happens to be New Year's Day. Last night was, Happy New Year. So Happy New Year to all of you who are watching this video, if you celebrate that at all. So Cassandra and Bone are going to be staring at me through the perspex or through the plastic while I do this video. But I like to muck around a little bit on my channel because sometimes we're all a little bit serious, all right? So BDSM. Okay, BDSM is something that's become really highly popular recently, especially with movies such as 50 Shades of Grey, and a little bit older movie might be The Secretary. If you haven't seen that one, that's a really great one too. And we want to tie this in with abandonment because usually one or both of the people doing the BDSM is a sufferer of abandonment wounding. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about abandonment wounding? Abandonment wounding is something that you feel either from childhood or in your, older years from having been let down by certain people or your parents or caregivers, okay? So abandonment wounding generally fits in with anxiety and depression, and it can also lead to PTSD or even borderline personality disorder and even narcissism. And these are some other terms that I'm going to be talking about on the channel as well. But someone with abandonment, I'm trying to think, how do I spell? It's about, what time is it? It's about 5 to 7 in the morning on New Year's Day, so bear with me. Abandonment issues usually will suffer from some kind of panic disorder, anxiety, not all the time, but these are some of the things that can accompany, accompany the abandonment. Okay, so I just want to write them down. So if you are taking notes or, want to revisit this or take a screenshot or something, you can. Okay, so abandonment, not always, but sometimes people with abandonment issues have anxiety, panic disorder, which can be generalized, or just, panic attacks that come on intermittently, depression, PTSD, and self-soothing mechanisms such as the use of something outside of yourself to cope. So that might be alcohol, that might be a certain drug, that might be food, that might be BDSM, in fact, okay? So BDSM we could class as something that people use outside of themselves to cope or to have fun with. Okay, so BDSM can either be a coping mechanism stemming from abandonment, or it can be something enjoyable that two people partake in, or two people or more, depending on which way you swing. You know, it can be something enjoyable. But a lot of people use the BDSM tag or the BDSM umbrella as a coping mechanism, okay? Some of the amazing, fun, not so fun things that might be used in BDSM, I'm just going to list those now so you can sort of tap into them and understand that if someone has been abandoned, which is usually whoever's playing the sub, so we can have a dom and a sub, or a daddy and a little girl, or a master and a slave, and whoever is tapping into the submissive role is usually the one who will be having things done to them. Okay, so this might include spanking. You can see me blushing. Spanking. Choking. No, I'm joking. You know what I mean. Choking. Pulling hair, which I did with Little Red Riding Hood the other day. That was fun. And all types of sex. Okay. So as in all positions of sex, we might have vaginal sex. We might have anal sex. We might have, submissive acts of giving head. Okay. Or submissive acts which go a little bit further, and things that maybe I can't say on YouTube, or maybe I can. I think I could say golden showers, and I think I could say, having someone in a role play acting like, they're a meow, a cat, or a woof, 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 a dog, or even a ooh, 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 a monkey. I haven't heard of a monkey, but that could be possible. Where, the dom, let's just say the dom for now, instead of using all the titles, but the dom might want that person to, if they're a cat, it might want them to lick the milk, right, in a bowl or something like that. That might be a turn on for the person in the dominant role, okay? I'll try not to act these out on camera, but it's kind of funny, isn't it? And Cassandra is still smiling, so I haven't done anything too bad. Okay, so these are some of the things that the person who's in the sub role might have to do. They might have to, put up with, whether they find that enjoyable or not, spanking or choking or the pulling of hair, all types of sex, which we mentioned, vaginal, anal sex, or all different modalities or types, as in, positions of sex. And then we would have submissive acts like, giving head or whatever else you want to call that. And other submissive acts like, pretending to be a certain thing, pretending to be a nurse, or pretending to be a cat, or pretending to be a donkey. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. Whew, I'm glad that bit's out of the way. Okay, so the abandonment part comes in where the submissive, who is usually having these types of things done to them and has, of course, agreed to these types of things, they're used to being in a position of being traumatized in some kind of way. Okay, so the trauma from childhood, or the trauma from being in that 12-year relationship with that man or woman, or from being in a work scenario where someone was mistreated, this is what happens to the sub. Usually they enjoy being either, spanked or choked or having their hair pulled or being degraded in some kind of way. That's some of the other things I didn't mention, was being degraded. Being degraded might be something like, being spoken down to, being called names like a whore or a slut or a bitch, right? Take gender how it resonates, right? So being degraded, being spat on, being slapped, being spoken to in a manner that you wouldn't normally tolerate in real life, okay? So these are some of the other things. Now, because the person who's gone through abandonment is used to feeling abnormal, or, is used to being degraded in some kind of way, or is used to, being used in some kind of way, their trauma actually feels normal to them. So we have this normality of trauma, okay, and that can be on a scale of 1 to 10. So, if they don't have much trauma, like if their mother just spoke to them and called them a bitch, that might just be, something that they've learned to deal with. But on a massive scale of trauma, we might have someone who has experienced rape, or who has experienced, severe violence in the home, let's say. Okay, so this abandonment of the sub, usually the sub, and sometimes the dom, but I'll get into that in a minute. But the sub actually feels normalized by having these things done to them, because they want to have a sexual relationship with someone, but they also want to feel and stay within the trauma that they're used to staying with, because it feels normal, which is really unusual. So if we look at the dominant, if the dominant has been through any kind of abandonment, the dominant would feel normalized by, let me just give an example of, let's say they had a mother, let's say a man had a mother that was really abusive and degrading to the son. Then that man would perhaps have a subconscious or even a conscious hatred for his mother, and perhaps, we could even say he might even be pissed off with women in general, okay? So on a severe scale, someone who's been traumatized by a woman, it could be the auntie, it doesn't necessarily have to be a mother, but a caregiver of some kind, or even an ex-partner of, could have been mean. And so the dom can use this in a way as revenge, but not revenge in a I want to hurt you kind of way, but just in a power play kind. I call it a power play revenge, right? A power play revenge, where he is allowed to say to his submissive, you little slut, you little whore, get on your knees now and beg for it, that kind of thing. So he can live out his abandonment too by utilizing the BDSM techniques, which we spoke about before: spanking, choking, pulling of hair, all types of sex, submissive acts. And then we have, degradation, as well as, being spat on or slapped, those kinds of things. So he can implement those tools within his arsenal and sort of go into a space of, I'm getting my revenge on whoever was, X, Y, Z to me in my past. So we have this idea that abandonment wounding can be inviting for the sub, can be enjoyable for the sub, because he or she is used to, it's usually a she, but depends, I'm just going to say she because it's easier, but take gender how it resonates. But the sub will be used of the trauma. So it's a turn on to be spoken to, you know, in a degrading way. It's a turn on to, you know, perhaps be slapped. It's a turn on to be told what to do. It's a normal state of affairs. You know, if you've ever known someone who had really strict parents, they either loved that or hated that. And even if they hated that, it still feels normal to them. So many subs have been abused in the past, and many of the DOMs become abusers within the BDSM dynamic so that they can get revenge. Okay? Power play revenge, which is, of course, which has consent. So I'm talking about BDSM with consent here. I'm never talking about, you know, someone just taking what they want from someone else. This is a consensual agreement between two people. So now that we've spoken about abandonment, I want to bring this up for the spiritual people now. So if you're not spiritual, you can click off. But if you are, you can listen in. So what happens now with twin flames is usually one or both of the twin flames have abandonment or have suffered from abandonment in their life. So they know what it feels like to have anxiety or panic disorder or depression or PTSD, or use self-soothing mechanisms like alcohol, drugs, food, porn, you know, anything outside of themselves, cigarettes, anything outside of themselves. You know, perhaps they go on shopping sprees. Okay. So what happens here in the twin flame dynamic is usually one or both of the twin flames have some kind of abandonment issue. And the reason I'm tying it into BDSM is because really in this day and age, a lot of people are using BDSM as a tool or a technique or as a fetish that they enjoy, you know, encompassing into their life. So in the beginning of the twin flame journey, many of the divine feminines usually are willing to allow their dominance, aka the divine masculine, to treat them in a certain way. So there's usually some kind of power play going on. This power play is a revenge from the divine masculine, but it doesn't have consent. So it has no consent. You know, the divine feminine is trying to come into the life of the masculine and say, you know, hey, I really love you, and what about all that time we spent together, and how come you're ignoring me? And the power play comes about as a seeming revenge from whatever has happened in the dominance or the in the divine masculine's life, and he treats her a certain way, but she doesn't consent to that. She doesn't want to be treated like that. So in BDSM dynamic, there is a power play where there is consent. Yes, I will get on my knees for you. Yes, you can degrade me. Yes, you can give me a golden shower. Yes, I'll give you head and you can pull my hair and spank me, right? There's a consent. But in the twin flame dynamic, the reason why it's so hard for divine feminine to come to terms with it is because the power play revenge has no consent. And it's happening on a spiritual level, right? She's being treated a certain way, XYZ, by her divine masculine so that she can learn. Okay, so that she can learn to come to terms with her own abandonment, wounding, through his abandonment of her. So I'm going to say that again. She learns, take gender how it resonates, the divine feminine learns how to come to terms with her own abandonment issues by being abandoned, usually over and over by the divine masculine, as a part of spiritual learning. She's not really consenting to it like you would in BDSM though. She's not standing there and going, yes, please don't speak to me for 6 months. Please ignore all of my text messages. Please don't like any of my posts on social media. She's not doing that. What happens when the divine masculine leaves is this abandonment gets triggered in her. Some kind of anxiety, perhaps some panic, maybe depression, PTSD, and then she may go into using self-soothing mechanisms. So it becomes a really difficult thing for the divine feminine to go through. So in a BDSM dynamic, the choice is there. Yes, I want to feel abandoned. I want you to spank me. I want you to speak to me in this way. I want you to, kind of unlove me while loving me. I want you to have sex with me while you're slapping me, I want you to do those things. But in the twin flame dynamic, this power play, which seems like revenge, right? It seems like a revenge on her of some kind, has no consent. But it's part of her spiritual learning and it's part of her growth so that she can end up coming to terms with her shadow side. And she might ask questions like, how do I live without him? How can I live without him when he's all I'm searching for? How can I live without him when he's all I'm looking for? I forget the words, but it's this feeling of, I don't know how to live without him. How do I live without you? I want to know. How do I breathe without you? If you ever go, how do I ever, I'm not going to be able to get the high notes, ever survive? I did it. How do I live? So she's like, in the beginning stages of the twin flame journey, and sometimes even towards the middle, she's like, how do I live without this man who is everything to me? Take gender how it resonates always, right? How do I live without this? In a healthy BDSM dynamic, we've got, I want to live with this naughtiness. I want to be spanked. I want to be abused. And then perhaps there's aftercare that comes with that. So there's some kind of power play revenge that occurs in the BDSM dynamic, but it has consent. In the twin flame journey, it's really difficult because you're not consenting to it. You're going, no, I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want you to abandon me. Please don't abandon me. And there's, that overwhelming sense of being alone, and perhaps even grief and loneliness too. I don't want you to abandon me. Please, please, please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. Don't walk out the door. Something like that. But I'm just feeling this. For many of you twin flames, you're not consenting to the abandonment, and that's why you feel so wounded. Because if you could have it your way, you'd be in a BDSM dynamic and you'd allow them to abuse you with consent. But the hardest part of the twin flame journey is that you're not asking for the abandonment, but it's happening so that you can come to terms with being whole on your own. And you'll be tested over and over and over and over again. Your divine masculine, might eventually come in and say, I'm here, finally, we're going to get married and everything's fine. And you might lay down some ground rules about how you feel about something, and then they go missing again. Okay? So with BDSM, we're coming together in an enjoyable environment where both people may have abandonment issues, where one usually wants to have some kind of power play revenge that's consensual, and we can come together and enjoy that dynamic, and then, go our separate ways, and come together and enjoy the dynamic and go our separate ways. But with the twin flame journey, what happens is the abandonment is not chosen. So, here's the divine feminine sending the text message or calling or doing something to chase, and the masculine may ignore that or may only, send a little bit or something like that. And she feels abandoned consistently on the journey. Okay, so if this is happening to you and you need some help, you can do my Game Changer course, which is for twin flames in separation, so that you can come to terms with, how do I deal with this abandonment? How do I deal with this anxiety or this panic disorder or this depression or this PTSD? And how do I stop using self-soothing mechanisms to make myself feel better? Do I really need to go and grab that, alcohol or that food or that, or do I need to be addicted to porn, or do I need to, go and find men to have sex with or something like that? You don't need to do those things. And many of you do in the twin flame journey. So thank you for being here for my BDSM series. I'm going to be doing a series on narcissism very soon as well, because narcissism ties into the twin flame journey, and many of you are seeing narcissistic traits coming through or characteristics coming through within your twin flame journey. And that may not just be happening, for your counterpart, but you also might be noticing that you have some of those traits yourself. And most times that comes about because of abandonment. So this is a really big topic, that relates to BDSM and also the twin flame dynamic. And it all ties in together, and we can take different umbrella topics such as BDSM, abandonment, and twin flames and put them all together and kind of shake them up, into a cocktail of understanding. So I really hope you enjoyed my video today. If you do, give it a like. And if you need to get in contact with me for a reading or anything else regarding your spiritual journey, feel free to do that. And I thank you for being here with me today. I wish you a beautiful day, night, afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are in the world. This is going to be weird for just the BDSM listeners, but we always sing joyful, joyful before we go. So get ready, okay? Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore you. God of glory, God of light. Hearts unfold like flowers before you. By the way, what have you done for him lately? Ooh, yeah. What have you done for him lately? Ooh, yeah. Ready? Chorus. Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore you. God of glory, God of light. Hearts unfold like flowers before him. By the way, what have you done for him lately? Ooh, yeah. I want you to remember that you're beautiful just the way you are. Just the way you are. You don't need to make all these crazy New Year changes unless you've been naughty. Unless you've been naughty. So I love you all so much. If you need me, get in contact with me. The wait for readings at the moment is about 72 hours. So that's, I don't know, according to my latest statistics, that's 3 days. So I wish you a beautiful day, night, afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful new year, and I'll see you real soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.